I've never been a fan of clowns. They always seemed a little too creepy to me, with their painted-on smiles and exaggerated features. But what happened to me last night takes the cake. It was late, and I was driving home from work. As I pulled up to a stoplight, I noticed a figure standing on the side of the road. At first, I thought it was just someone in a costume, maybe coming from a party. But as I got closer, I realized it was a clown. And not the happy, friendly kind you see at children's parties. This one was different. He was standing completely still, staring at me with a blank expression. I tried to look away, but I couldn't. Something about him was unnerving, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. The light turned green, and I hit the gas, eager to get away from the clown. But as I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was following me. I glanced in my rearview mirror, and sure enough, he was there. I tried to speed up, but he kept pace with me. My heart was pounding, and I felt a sense of dread wash over me. I had to get away from this clown. Finally, I saw an opportunity to lose him. I swerved into a side street and slammed on the brakes. The clown zoomed past me, and I let out a sigh of relief. But my relief was short-lived. As I drove down the quiet street, I saw the clown again. He was standing in the middle of the road, blocking my way. I tried to turn around, but he was too fast. He was closing in on me, and I knew I was in trouble. I hit the gas, hoping to run him over. But at the last second, he jumped out of the way. I swerved to avoid him, and my car careened off the road. I slammed into a tree and blacked out. When I came to, the clown was gone. But I knew he would be back. I stumbled out of my car and began to run. I didn't stop until I was safely inside my house, with the doors locked and the curtains drawn. I don't know what that clown wanted, or why he targeted me. But I do know one thing, I'll never forget that encounter. And I'll never look at clowns the same way again. I've always found clowns to be a bit unsettling. It's not just the exaggerated features or the painted-on smile, but there's something about the way they move that makes me feel uneasy. I never thought I'd actually have a run-in with one, but that's exactly what happened last summer. It was a warm, humid night and I was walking home from a friend's house. As I turned the corner onto my street, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. At first, I thought it was a child's toy or a Halloween decoration, but as I got closer, I realized it was a clown standing on the sidewalk. I tried to ignore him and keep walking, but as I got closer, I saw that he was staring at me. His painted-on smile was wide and unnerving. My heart started racing as I quickened my pace, but the clown began to follow me. I could hear his oversized shoes slapping against the pavement behind me, and I knew I had to do something. I turned to face him and yelled, "What do you want? Leave me alone." The clown didn't say anything. He just stood there, grinning at me. I took a step back, ready to run if I had to, but then I saw something glinting in his hand. It was a knife. I didn't wait around to see what he was going to do with it. I turned and ran as fast as I could, the sound of his laughter echoing behind me. I didn't stop until I reached my front door, and even then, I didn't feel safe. I called the police and reported the clown, but they never found him. I don't know what his intentions were, but I do know that I'll never forget that night. The sight of that painted-on smile and the sound of his laughter still haunt me to this day. I know it's irrational, but sometimes when I'm walking alone at night, I can't help but glance over my shoulder, just to make sure that clown isn't there, waiting for me. I remember the day vividly. It was a warm summer evening, and I had just finished my shift at the local diner. As I walked home, I noticed a figure standing under the street light on the corner. It was a clown, complete with the red nose and oversized shoes. I tried to walk past quickly, but the clown turned and followed me. My heart raced as I picked up my pace, but the clown matched my speed. I turned to face the clown, ready to defend myself if necessary. But the clown just stood there, staring at me with an unnerving grin. I tried to ignore the clown and keep walking, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I turned around again, and the clown was gone. I let out a sigh of relief and continued home, thinking it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But when I got home, I found a note on my doorstep. It was written in black marker, with the words "I'll be watching you" scrawled across it. My heart sank as I realized the clown had followed me home. I locked all the doors and windows and called the police. They arrived quickly, but the clown was nowhere to be found. The officer told me they would keep an eye out for any suspicious activity and to call if I saw anything else. For the next few nights, I couldn't sleep. Every creak and sound made me jump, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. But after a week of no further incidents, I started to feel more at ease. Then, one night, I heard a knock at my door. I peered through the peephole, and to my horror, it was the clown. He was holding a bouquet of flowers and had a creepy smile on his face. I called the police again, and this time they were able to catch the clown. It turned out to be a local college student who was just trying to scare people. But to me, it was no joke. I still have nightmares about that clown, and I always make sure to lock my doors and windows. I learned the hard way that you never know who or what is lurking in the shadows. I was driving home from a late shift at work when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It was a clown, standing on the side of the road, holding a balloon. My heart raced as I drove past, trying not to make eye contact. But something about the clown made me uneasy. As I turned onto my street, I saw the same clown standing at the end of my driveway. I slammed on the brakes and sat there, frozen in fear. The clown started to walk towards my car, its balloon bouncing along behind it. I quickly put my car in reverse and backed up down the street. But the clown didn't give up. It started to run after me, its balloon trailing behind. I could hear its maniacal laughter, which sent shivers down my spine. I was too scared to look in my rearview mirror, so I just kept driving backwards. Finally, I saw the clown stop chasing me and head back in the other direction. I quickly turned my car around and drove home, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't sleep a wink that night, and I couldn't stop thinking about the clown. The next morning, I called the police to report the clown. They told me that they had received several reports of a clown terrorizing the town. They asked me to come down to the station to give a statement. As I sat in the interrogation room, I couldn't help but feel relieved that I had escaped the clown's clutches. But I also felt guilty that I hadn't been able to do more to stop it. A few weeks later, the police caught the clown. It turned out to be a man who had dressed up as a clown as a prank. But for those few terrifying moments, I truly thought I was in danger. I still get chills thinking about it, and I'll never forget the fear I felt that night. It was a warm summer evening when I decided to take a walk through my neighborhood. I loved the quiet streets and the way the trees cast long shadows across the pavement. But that peacefulness was shattered when I saw him, a clown standing on the corner, his face obscured by the shadows of the trees. At first, I thought it was just someone in a costume, a street performer trying to earn a few extra bucks. But then I noticed that he wasn't moving. He was just standing there, staring at me with his dark eyes. I tried to keep walking, to pretend like I hadn't seen him. But the closer I got, the more uneasy I felt. Something about the way he was looking at me, the way his eyes seemed to follow me as I walked by. I quickened my pace, trying to put some distance between us. But the clown started to follow me, his heavy footsteps echoing on the pavement. I turned around to confront him, to tell him to leave me alone. But when I looked into his face, I saw something that made my blood run cold. His eyes were no longer just dark, they were black as pitch, like two holes in his skull. I tried to run, but it was like my feet were stuck in mud. The clown closed in on me, his breath hot on my neck. Just when I thought it was all over, a neighbor's dog appeared out of nowhere, barking and snarling at the clown. It was enough of a distraction for me to break free and run all the way back to my house. I locked the doors and windows and didn't leave my house for days. I couldn't shake the feeling that the clown was still out there, waiting for me. But eventually, the fear faded, and I ventured back out into the world. I never saw the clown again, but I still have nightmares about that black-eyed monster. And every time I see a clown, whether it's at a birthday party or a circus, I can't help but feel a shiver run down my spine. It was a warm summer evening and I had just finished my shift at the local diner. As I walked to my car in the dimly lit parking lot, I noticed a figure standing in the distance. As I got closer, I realized it was a clown. At first, I thought it was just someone dressed up for a party or event, but something about the way the clown was staring at me made me uneasy. I tried to walk past quickly, but the clown stepped in front of me, blocking my way. "Hello there," the clown said in a high-pitched, sing-songy voice. "Don't be afraid, I just want to talk." I felt my heart start to race as I tried to edge around the clown, but it seemed to anticipate my movements and always ended up blocking my path. The clown's face was painted in bright colors, but the smile was too wide and its eyes seemed to follow me. "I have a surprise for you," the clown said, holding out a small box wrapped in colorful paper. "Take it, it's a gift." I didn't want to take anything from this stranger, especially not after feeling so uneasy around him. But the clown's insistent voice and unblinking stare made me feel trapped. I reached out hesitantly and took the box. As soon as my fingers touched the paper, the clown's expression changed. Its smile turned into a snarl and its eyes widened in anger. "You shouldn't have done that," the clown growled, reaching out to grab me. I managed to dodge its grasp and ran as fast as I could to my car. The clown chased after me, cackling in a manic voice. I fumbled with my keys and finally managed to unlock the door, throwing myself inside and slamming it shut. I looked out the window and saw the clown still standing there, its painted face twisted into a rage-filled expression. It lingered for a few moments before disappearing into the darkness. I never went back to that diner again, and I always made sure to park in a well-lit area. The encounter left me shaken, but thankfully unharmed. But to this day, I can still hear the clown's laughter echoing in my mind, a haunting reminder of just how close I came to danger. I never thought I'd be telling a story like this, but here we are. It all started a few weeks ago, when I was walking home from a late shift at work. It was around midnight, and the streets were deserted. That's when I saw him. A clown. Not the kind you see at a children's party, but one of those creepy, white-faced clowns with the red nose and the sharp-toothed grin. He was standing on the other side of the road, just staring at me. At first, I tried to ignore him and quicken my pace. But as I passed under a streetlight, I saw something that made me stop dead in my tracks. In his hand, the clown was holding a large knife. My heart racing, I started to back away slowly. The clown didn't move, but he kept staring at me with those cold, lifeless eyes. I could feel the sweat dripping down my back, and my throat was tight with fear. Just when I thought he was going to come after me, a car turned the corner and illuminated the street. The clown disappeared into the shadows, and I ran all the way home. For the next few days, I was on high alert. Every time I went out, I kept an eye out for the clown. But he never showed up again. I started to think that maybe it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. That's when I made a fatal mistake. One night, after a few drinks with my friends, I decided to walk home alone. I was feeling invincible, and I didn't think anything could happen to me. But as I turned a corner, I saw him again. The clown. He was standing at the end of the street, blocking my path. This time, he wasn't holding a knife. Instead, he was holding a large, wooden box. I froze, but the clown didn't move. He just stared at me with those dead, unblinking eyes. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears, and my breath was coming in short, shallow gasps. That's when he started to move. Slowly, almost lazily, he lifted the lid of the box. And that's when I saw what was inside. It was a puppet. A wooden puppet, with strings attached to its arms and legs. And the clown was manipulating it with his own hands. As I watched, transfixed with fear, the puppet started to move. Its limbs jerked and twitched, and its mouth opened and closed. And then, in a voice that was eerily familiar, it spoke. "Hello, friend," it said. "I've been waiting for you." I didn't wait to hear anything else. I turned and ran as fast as I could, my heart pounding in my chest. When I got home, I collapsed onto my bed and didn't move for hours. To this day, I don't know what the clown wanted from me. Maybe it was just a sick joke, or maybe he had something more sinister in mind. But I know one thing for sure, I'll never forget that encounter, and I'll never underestimate the power of fear. I've always been afraid of clowns. The exaggerated makeup, the forced smiles, and the unpredictable behavior have always made me feel uneasy. So when I got lost on a deserted street on the outskirts of town one night and saw a clown standing in the shadows, I knew I was in trouble. I had been walking home from a friend's house and had taken a wrong turn. The street lights were dim, and the buildings were old and decrepit. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest as I saw the clown emerge from the shadows, his face painted white with red lips and a red nose. I tried to walk away, but the clown started following me. I quickened my pace, but he kept up. I turned around and saw that he was now holding a long, sharp knife. I ran as fast as I could, my heart racing and my breath coming in short gasps. I could hear the clown's laughter behind me, and I knew I was in grave danger. I stumbled and fell, and the clown was upon me in an instant. He raised the knife high above his head, and I closed my eyes, waiting for the fatal blow. But it never came. I opened my eyes and saw the clown lying on the ground next to me, unconscious. A group of people had come to my rescue, and one of them had hit the clown over the head with a brick. I later found out that the clown was a notorious serial killer who had been terrorizing the town for weeks. He had been targeting young women who were walking alone at night, and I had narrowly escaped becoming his next victim. I still have nightmares about that night, but I am grateful to be alive. I never walk alone at night anymore, and I always stay in well-lit areas. But most importantly, I will never forget the bravery of those strangers who saved my life. I had always been afraid of clowns. I didn't know why, but they just gave me the creeps. So when my friends invited me to a circus-themed party, I was hesitant. But, after some convincing, I decided to go. The party was in full swing when I arrived. The decorations were on point, and everyone was dressed up in colorful costumes. I was having a great time until I saw him, A clown. He was standing in the corner, motionless, staring at me with his big, red eyes. I tried to ignore him, but he kept following me with his gaze. As the night went on, I felt increasingly uncomfortable. I kept catching glimpses of the clown out of the corner of my eye. It seemed like he was everywhere I turned. I decided to leave the party early, but when I stepped outside, I saw the clown standing at the end of the street, staring at me. I froze. Suddenly, he started walking towards me. I turned and ran, but I could hear his heavy footsteps behind me. I didn't stop until I got home and locked the door behind me. The next few days were filled with dread. I kept seeing the clown in my dreams and even when I was awake. I tried to shake it off, but it was like he was haunting me. One day, while I was walking to work, I saw him again. This time, he was standing in front of me, blocking my path. I tried to run, but he grabbed my arm. I was terrified. He pulled me towards him and whispered in my ear, "Don't be afraid, it's just me, your old friend from high school." I was shocked. It was my old friend, Tim, who I hadn't seen in years. He had become a clown for children's birthday parties, and he was wearing his work clothes. We hugged, and I was relieved to find out that it was just a misunderstanding. But, I couldn't shake the fear that had consumed me for days. From that moment on, I avoided circuses and anything related to clowns. I learned that sometimes, our fears can become so strong that they manifest into something even scarier than reality.